the world premiere of Mission Impossible 1 Hour Wi-Fi by us, Cisco Meraki. So just as a quick introduction for everybody on the line, first of all, my name is Imran Idris. I am Marketing Manager here at Cisco Meraki. I am also joined by Mr. Ethan Hunt, aka Simon Thompson, who will be completing the mission today. Do you want to say hello, Simon?
Good morning, everybody. Looking forward to this challenge.
We have a very action-packed schedule. This isn't called Mission Impossible for any reason, so I am going to kick it off straight into the agenda. So I'm going to start off by a very brief background to Cisco Meraki and also the cloud-managed architecture. Hopefully this will put it into context. The demonstration we will do straight afterwards. We'll then really take a look at the Mission Impossible 1 Hour Wi-Fi demo. So we'll go from requirements, setting the scene, to what we're actually looking to do. Then Simon will actually go ahead and configure and deploy the network, and this is where we will do something different. We'll actually connect to the wireless networks we've created live on the air. So we'll actually hook up and share the screen of one of our Android devices and show you what the user experience looks like when clients authenticate to the networks. We'll finish off with a Q&A session. However, please do not feel like you have to hold your questions until the end. I am joined today by an elite team, joined online by my colleagues Anna and Corey and also Sophie. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to keep them busy as we're going throughout the webinar. And you can communicate with the guys using the chat functionality on your right-hand Citrix pane. So about Cisco Meraki then. For those of you who like to keep yourselves abreast of the latest technology news, you will all know that Cisco Meraki was actually born out of an acquisition Cisco made at the end of 2012. So Cisco acquired a company called Meraki for $1.2 billion. Meraki actually now forms the new cloud networking group at Cisco, which we now refer to as Cisco Meraki. Even before Meraki was acquired, however, we were the leader in cloud networking with 20,000 customer networks deployed worldwide. The initial technology that Meraki is based upon actually was founded at MIT as part of a research project, really taking a look at some pretty sophisticated mesh networking algorithms. So today that forms the basis of our cloud-managed edge and branch networking portfolio, which is complete with wireless, switching, security, WAN optimization, and also mobile device management products. So now that we are part of Cisco, it's actually a really very exciting time for us. We're going to be increasing investment in Meraki technology, really growing the team, particularly within R&D to accelerate our already very rapid product development process. So we're also going to be able to utilize Cisco's huge global reach to bring Meraki to new geographies and also to new markets. For those of you who are familiar from Meraki from way back in the day, there are no changes planned to our pricing, licensing, or product roadmaps. So everything that you've known in the past will remain the same for the foreseeable future. So as a bit of background to the architecture to put into context the demonstration we'll be doing very shortly, I just wanted to share this very quick chart with you here just to explain the major difference between Cisco Meraki's cloud-managed architecture compared to perhaps the traditional approach to networking. So today we're going to be focusing on wireless. However, Cisco Meraki's products do cover the entire range, including security appliances and switches. So for the example of a wireless network, whether you're deploying that at a campus or a headquarter location, branch office, retail store, or indeed a teleworker, which is becoming very popular nowadays, all you would actually need on site to deploy a wireless network is actually just the Cisco Meraki cloud-managed wireless access point. That is all you need. There is no need for any additional on-site Wi-Fi controllers or indeed any overlay management systems. These wireless access points will tunnel a secure connection to the cloud, and you will then have management capability over this access point using our browser-based management tool, the Cisco Meraki dashboard. So effectively what we have is high-capacity on-site hardware and the ability to manage it over the web. So what we also have is out-of-band cloud management in every product. So what I mean by this is really three things. It's very, very scalable. And I'm not going to speak too much about scalability at the moment. I'm actually going to let Simon do the demonstration, and this will become much more clearer how scalable the architecture is. So we have pretty much unlimited throughput, as we aren't offered any bottlenecks by Wi-Fi controllers or any overlay management systems, or indeed actually these things actually pose single points of failure for your network, which we are immune from. So you can actually also add devices and sites in minutes, and this part of the scalability will become much more clearer when we are actually setting up an access point. So reliability. The architecture is extremely reliable. It's highly available with multiple data centers dotted around the globe. At any given time, each Meraki hardware device is actually connected to 2 simultaneous data centers. So in the very unlikely event that any one of these data centers was to go down, it would seamlessly back up to the other data center. In the extremely unlikely event that this one was to go down as well, it would of course back up to another data center at another geographical location. In terms of data center redundancy architecture, this is much the same way that Facebook's or Gmail's data centers operate. One key thing to note is that even if in the very unlikely event that you do lose connection to the cloud, your local area network would still function even if the cloud connection was interrupted. So this actually gives us 99.99% uptime SLA, which actually equates to just a handful of hours every year. So let's talk about security then. Very important topic. If I can draw your attention to the diagram on the left-hand side, what we have set up is a very simple network diagram consisting of a Cisco Meraki cloud-managed wireless access point hooked up to a switch, which is hooked up to a router or firewall, and then that's going out to your T1 or DSL. So you'll notice when traffic is hitting the T1 or DSL, we've got 2 very separate streams of traffic. We have the WAN traffic, which is actually your user traffic, and you can see that clearly bypasses our cloud. We aren't interested in user traffic passing through our cloud whatsoever. This is not a scalable architecture, and it's not something we want to do. What is going to the cloud is a very secure encrypted connection flowing some management data to the cloud, things like how many megabytes per application is using, etc. In terms of bandwidth usage per Meraki hardware device, this is around 1 kilobit a second, so fairly negligible. So the way we have our architecture set up means actually that we are HIPAA compliant. If you are a healthcare organization, we have compliance there. Or perhaps you're a retail organization and you need to process some credit card payments over the network. Well, we have compliance level 1 certified to the payments card industry as well, which is actually the highest level of certification one can achieve. To really supplement on our security measures, we also hold third-party security audits and daily penetration testings. However, if you'd like to read up a little bit more about our reliability and security information, please feel free to log on to meraki.com/trust. So let's just very briefly talk about why cloud networking. Why are thousands of organizations, schools, colleges, universities all across the globe switching over to this next generation architecture? Well, I'm sure everybody has noticed there's a growing trend towards wireless now. And this is by no coincidence. No doubt everyone's noticed a huge explosion in mobile devices. I myself have 2. I know Simon right now in the office has about 3. And a given day he may have 4 or 5, depending on which mobile device he's testing at the moment. But I know that most of my other colleagues in the office have at least 1. And I'm sure it's the same case in your organizations. So really to have wireless is to satisfy the end user demand that really is being generated by staff, students, guests expecting to use their mobile devices in the workplace. Mobile devices are also being used to open up new opportunities in businesses to innovate. So Apple's been doing this for quite a long time, using their iPads and iPhones in their retail stores for line busting, so they're able to actually have transactions, purchase transactions, not at a till, just walking around. There's a lot of retail organizations, Maplins, for example, electronics, using handheld wireless devices for stock checking. And of course, in education, schools, colleges, we're seeing many one-to-one iPad deployments to supplement learning. There's also just a very cool quote I'd just like to share with you from James Goodnow, who's a director at a law firm, Fenmore & Craig, saying that iPad has changed the way this firm practices law, and I think it's changed the practice of law in general. So that's just one industry really being impacted pretty heavily by mobile devices, and they're not the only ones. So we've talked about a bunch of others, and they're all experiencing the same kind of change. So with all these mobile devices popping onto wireless networks where traditionally IT departments would have only expected laptops perhaps, these devices are guzzling up pretty high bandwidth web applications, which is posing new IT challenges. So video music as an application is really the main contributor to bandwidth being guzzled up on your network. You've also got on top of that social applications such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. So what kind of challenges is posing IT departments? Well, they're probably asking themselves questions such as, how do I support 10 times more devices with the fixed number of staff that I have? How do I keep BitTorrent from slowing down my web apps? And can users actually bring their own devices onto my network securely? What Cisco Meraki hopes to do is provide a complete out-of-the-box solution which requires no additional hardware, software, or complexity to solve all of these issues. And we'll see this become much more clear how we do so in the demonstration. So let's get on to the demonstration now. Let's set Simon his mission. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to create a wireless network for staff. So this network should be capable of authenticating users with a radius server. Clients should have access to the existing LAN so that they can use LAN resources such as printers, fax machines, etc. We do not, however, want any one device to exceed 2 megabits per second. And also we would like to deny users access to Facebook because we're mean like that. That's not it. However, I'd also like you to please create a wireless network for my guests. On this network, however, I would actually like to use the functionality that Facebook offers, and I'd like to use it to promote my organization. So I'd like you to be able to authenticate guests onto the network via Facebook. Also, I don't want the guest network guzzling up all my bandwidth, so please would you restrict the entire guest network to 5 megabits per second. And also let's restrict mobile devices, pesky mobile devices that are guzzling up my bandwidth to 1 megabit per second, and ensure that no one device, particularly for video and music applications, exceeds more than 500 kilobits a second. And also to top things off, I don't want the guest network to be available weekends because we are not open on weekends. So please would you mind turning that off. So I'd like you to do all of this, Simon, using just a Cisco Meraki 82.11n cloud-managed access point. So what do you say?
I say it's a tough challenge, but we can do it. Hello everybody, my name is Simon Thompson. I'm a solutions architect here at Meraki, and I'm going to now attempt to complete all of the requirements that Imran has set me this morning. So what I'm going to do right now is accept this mission. And so right away I'm going to flip across to my web browser to Meraki's dashboard where I can log in and get things started. So we're doing this all absolutely live, no tricks here whatsoever, and you're going to see for yourself first of all how the configuration is done from scratch, but also how you can actually see what it would be like from a client perspective as well. So I log in on the dashboard interface. Those of you who haven't seen this before, just note the fact that this is live on the internet. We're on a web browser. We're going to be managing our entire estate through the browser interface, and we can have two-factor authentication as well for this very important secure login via the internet. All right, so let's get things connected. And so what I'm presented first of all is a list of organizations that I have responsibility for with the user account that I've just logged in with. So I'm going to select for today Meraki Webinars. This could be a list of organizations that you're managing. If you're a partner company, it could be a list of end customers that you're managing. So I'm just going to go ahead and select Meraki Webinars. And this is what I would see if I was coming in brand new with a fresh organization. So currently have no devices set up whatsoever, no networks created. A network in our terminology is essentially a collection of devices of a similar type. So we create those underneath the organization that we have selected. So let me go right ahead and create a new network. I'm going to name this MI Wi-Fi, so Mission Impossible Wi-Fi. Its network type obviously is wireless. You can see the other device types and software types that Meraki includes in its offer. And so the first thing I'm asked for is to enter a serial number. I can also enter here an order number. So if I had a whole bunch of serial numbers that I was wanting to configure, maybe I was configuring 50 APs to be deployed around a large campus site, for example, I could just enter that order number and I'm immediately able to manage all of those access points simultaneously. So I'm just going to go in ahead and enter the serial number of the access point that I have for today's demonstration. So this is an actual real Meraki access point, an MR12 AP. So I'm going to go ahead and claim that, and you'll see that the system has recognized that it is an MR12 and the fact that I have now claimed it. So this is essentially taking it out of a pool of devices that I have ownership of, and so that I can actually start deploying it in a network. So let me go ahead and create that now. All right, so the first thing I'm asked to do is to place the access point on a map. So you can see here we have the AP, and we can actually now deploy it just by dragging that over. I'm just going to place it over the United Kingdom for now. That should be just about enough detail. We can always go in and refine that later on if we want to move it around. So just click OK on that. And then the next step is I'm going to, let me just check that actually worked. Click OK there. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is move on to maps and floor plans, and I'm going to upload a floor plan for this AP. So this is going to be a little bit more accurate. It's actually going to show the location of my actual access point on the floor itself. So just going to name this floor plan. We could call it, say, floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, whatever you want to do. And I'm just going to select the image, which I have here waiting to go on my desktop. And so that will now be uploaded to Meraki's cloud from my desktop and then presented to me there. So just click on Save Changes. And you'll see now it says I can now place that access point onto the floor plan. So let's go ahead and move over to the map view. Yeah, let me just move this over again. That's better. Okay, so that's taken this time. And so now I'm just going to select from this drop down, I'm just going to go to floor plan. So here is what I've just uploaded from my device. And once again, I can place the AP here. So we've placed it effectively twice, one time on a map and one time on a floor plan for my actual deployment. So I've determined, I've just got the one AP today, and I've determined that this is probably the best location I can place it for providing best coverage across this environment you can see here. All right, so now we have our access point located and into the system. We can go ahead and start configuring. So let me first of all move into the configure section. And there's quite a lot of jumping around I need to do on the menus here. I'll try and take this as steadily as I can. I don't want to lose anybody. Obviously, if anything's unclear, just go ahead and ask a question on the Q&A tool. So first thing I'm going to do here is rename my, my primary network. So the first one that I've been challenged to set up is called Staff. And I'm also going to, while I'm in here, I'm just going to set up the second SSID as well. That's Guest, and I'll enable that one as well. Notice that the AP is not currently connected at all. We are actually just pre-configuring. The configuration master effectively lives in the cloud, and then as soon as the access point comes online, it's just going to suck that configuration down from the cloud so that it's locally configured. So click Save on here. So now I have those two SSIDs available to me. You'll probably have noticed that it says here I've got up to 15 SSIDs that I can configure. Generally better to stick to a smaller number if you can, but if you want to have that many, then absolutely you can do that. So let's go in and start configuring one of these SSIDs. And we're going to start off obviously with the staff one. I want to make sure I've got all of those requirements checked off before we move on. So here is where we essentially set up the way in which our users connect and the experience that they have when they are actually connected. So from the perspective of association requirements, in this particular case, you can see we have things like pre-shared keys that you're probably using at home, Mac-based authentication, or you can have proper full WPA2 enterprise. So I'm going to select that, as this is a staff network. So this is only going to be staff devices that will be connecting to this network. And you can see here I have a choice, so I can either authenticate users using Meraki's own cloud-based service for authentication, or as is most common with our customer base, I can just deploy my own Radius server. So I'm going to go ahead and select that right now. And then I'll scroll down a little bit further. Splash page we don't need. We are just connecting employees. We want them to get straight to work. No need to mess around with a splash page. We'll come back to that in the guest section. But right now I'm just going to go ahead and add one of the add a Radius server so that we can authenticate users against this. So this is a real Radius server I'm configuring. So we will be actually testing the device live against this very shortly. So host name, so I'll put in the IP address, port name, and I just need to configure the secret for obviously secure connection to that server. So let me just do that again. The SSD. Okay, so that's done, and I'll click Save there to make sure that's taken. And so while we're in here, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit further, and I've got a couple of other configuration changes that I want to make as well. So let me just go right down to the bottom here. You'll see there's quite a few options I have, but the one I want to select right now is this one here under Client IP Assignment. So by default, Meraki APs actually contain their own DHCP server, and they will NAT whatever the incoming connection is and serve clients a range of IP addresses, all done completely automatically. So this, the users of our equipment don't actually even need to worry about setting up anything like DHCP. It's just plug and play out of the box. But I'm configuring something a little bit more bespoke, so I want to put this access point into what we call bridge mode. So when we place it into bridge mode, as its name suggests, it's effectively just providing a bridge between the wired connection that comes into the AP and the clients that are served off this SSID. So anybody who connects to my staff network is going to be treated as though they're part of the pre-existing corporate network. So they'll get DHCP service from a DHCP server that I have configured elsewhere. That could be obviously a Microsoft box or even a Meraki device providing DHCP services. But it's all about IP address management. And once we place it into bridge mode as well, you'll notice that we also have the option to, for example, create VLAN tags that we can apply. So if you're in a multi-VLAN environment, you can absolutely go ahead and do that. Down at the bottom here, I'm just going to select my treatment for legacy 11B bit rates. So those of you who know your wireless well, you'll know that the very old standard 802.11b, that's over a decade old now, a lot of devices will support that still to this day, but we don't really want to be supporting the slower speeds of 11b because it can actually slow down the performance of some of the newer standards that have come along since. So let me go ahead and save those changes that I've made there. And I'm now going to move across to a section called Firewall and Traffic Shaping, where I'm going to configure the last couple of requirements that we've placed here. So Imran mentioned that we wanted to have a bandwidth limit per client of 2 megabits per second. So you'll notice how easy it is for me to do this. Very, very straightforward thing to do. I can just go right ahead and just move that slider around. If I want to make it asynchronous, I can even go in and do the details, as you can see here. I can place different performances for the down speed and up speed. So if you're on a DSL link, for example, that could be useful to you. It was also requested that we block Facebook. So I want to make sure that we do that. Now, there are a couple of ways in which we can do this. We do have a layer 3 firewall built in just to the access points. Everything we're showing you here is just purely on the APs. It does not rely on any other hardware behind the scenes. So we can go ahead and do layer 3 if we know what we're doing, but far more straightforward and much more user accessible is the layer 7 firewall that we have built in here. So you'll see from this example that I could just go right ahead and just type in facebook.com if I wanted to just block Facebook in that way. But we've also made it easy to do it on a category basis. So for example, we go to social, web, and photo sharing. I've got all these different categories. And then I'm given a whole bunch of subcategories. So in this case, we're only interested in placing a block on Facebook. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that here. So let me click on Save. All right, so those changes have now taken. And that is it. We have completed configuration of our staff network. Of course, we could go back and add more stuff later on, but that's a pretty good start. Let's go back to the checklist to make sure we've got everything covered off. So the staff network. We want to authenticate users with Radius. Done. We want clients to have existing access to the existing LAN. We talked about that with bridge mode. We don't want any one device to exceed 2 megabits per second. That's the slider I showed you. And then last but not least, we want to deny users access to Facebook. I think we can safely say job done on that one. All right, so next up is the guest network. Let's move across and go back to the browser again, and we're going to configure our guest network. So once again, we go back to access control to do this. And we're going to choose a different way of connecting this time. So you'll notice right now it's got the SSID staff still selected. So very important, I need to make sure I've selected the correct one. So I'm just going to switch across to the guest SSID. So this time we're not going to create any association requirements. We're going to use a splash-based approach for our guests. We want to keep things as simple as we can. But we're quite interested in promoting our business And one of the features that Meraki has recently added to its list of capabilities is the ability to sign on using your Facebook login. So effectively this puts a check-in on your Facebook site. So this is ideal for businesses like coffee shops or hotels who want to find an alternative way to monetize their Wi-Fi. They can do this by effectively getting some free promotion when people check in at their location. So I'm going to go here and select Facebook Wi-Fi. You can see the list of other options that I have available to me there. But I'm going to go for the Facebook Wi-Fi one. I want to show you that one today. So let's go ahead and configure that. So sign on with Facebook Wi-Fi. Now it says here, configure Facebook settings here. So I'm going to click this link, and it's going to take me to facebook.com, where I can actually set up which of the Facebook pages I want to authenticate and connect my users to when they check in on this wireless network. So you'll notice this is now facebook.com. We have a special API connection with Facebook. This is a unique thing to Meraki at this point in time. And what I want to do is just go ahead and select. I've got a couple of pages that I manage, and one of those is MI Inc. Look at that. So let's select that one. And then I'm given a couple of options. I can, if I want to, I can provide an option for users who don't want to check in. Maybe they don't have a Facebook account. I can absolutely do that, or I can require them to enter a Wi-Fi code. So this would be just a regular guest password, just like you would do with WPA2 Personal, for example. So let's create a guest wireless called MI Guest. How about that? So that's an alternative to checking in if people don't want to use the Facebook check-in approach. So settings saved, and that's it. That's all I need to do on the Facebook side of things. Obviously, I've got my page created already, so I can just go straight back to configuring on here now. All right, so let's have a look at the other things that were on the list. As we don't know the identity of the devices that are going to be connecting on a guest network, I'm going to deploy network access control here. So this is going to ensure that PC clients that are joining my network have antivirus software installed according to the standard set by Microsoft Security Essentials, so I can make sure that I'm minimizing any potential risk for users connecting to my network. So that's selected. I will now go down a little bit further, and right down at the bottom here I've got a content filtering option. Now Meraki offers a couple of different content filtering capabilities. Through our security appliance it gets very sophisticated because we're using a service there where we can potentially block up to 1 billion URLs, and they're split down into about 80 different categories that you can go in and select, so very, very granular. But even just built into the access points without a need to purchase anything else from Meraki, you can go ahead and select some basic content filtering. So what I'm going to do is select block adult content, but notice that you can also set up custom DNS there. So for example, services like OpenDNS could be used for providing content filtering services. Okay, so let me just save the changes there, make sure everything is kept up to date. And my next step is going to be to create a group policy. So I'm going to create a policy which just impacts mobile devices that are connecting through this guest network, because I want to make sure that those in particular are not going to be consuming too much bandwidth. So let me go ahead and create a group. So I'm just going to call it mobile devices. And let me save that. And so the next thing I'm going to do is create a bandwidth restriction. So there's my group policy now. So I'm going to go in and create a bandwidth limit, and we're going to make this 1 megabit per second. So let me just click a save on there. All right, so looking good. We have our policy now set up. So mobile devices currently affecting no clients, but obviously that will change once clients get connected. And there's my bandwidth restriction that I've set, so 1 meg up and down. All right, let's go back to access control again, because I'm now going to apply that policy that I've created to mobile device types that are connecting to this SSID. Because obviously that group policy could be applied to multiple different SSIDs, for example. So just bear that in mind. That's the reason why I've gone across to a different window. So I'm going to apply group policies by device type. So let me go in here, and certainly Android devices are going to be included. So there's my new policy I've created. So mobile devices added. I'm going to go to iPad, and I'm going to put that one in the same group. And while I'm here, I'll just do iPhones as well. That's probably covering the majority of the type of devices I see. We won't worry about the others for now. So save changes on there. And now I'm going to go back to firewall and traffic shaping again. So as we saw before with the corporate network, the staff network, but now we're obviously configuring the guest network specifically. So this time I'm going to set, instead of a per client bandwidth limit, I'm going to set a per SSID bandwidth limit. So this is effectively saying how much total bandwidth do I want to dedicate or make available to the guest network to ensure therefore that guests don't consume or in any way impact regular business practice on the other networks. So I'm going to choose a limit of 5 megabits per second as a total for the whole of the guest SSID. And while I'm in here as well, I'm also going to do some traffic shaping. Now, if, like me, you've ever configured traffic shaping using traditional networking equipment, you'll know this is not an easy task. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how easy it is with Meraki. Once again, we do this on a category basis. If you know what you're doing, you can go ahead and create a custom expression right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a category. So I'm going to go for video and music, and I'm going to make sure that all video and music is restricted to just 500 kilobits per second. I really don't want people using that stuff. So it'll work, but it really won't work terribly well. So let's go ahead and save that. All right, so the final thing, if I remember correctly from the checklist, was to go ahead and set an availability so to ensure that the guest network is only available during weekdays. So I've got my list of network-wide settings here. There's quite a lot on this screen, but a very important one is down here, which is the time zone. So not surprisingly, if we're going to start playing with schedules, we need to make sure we've got the right time zone in there. So let me just type in London and click Save there. All right, so let's go now to SSID availability. And the last thing we need to do, I think, today for now is to go ahead and create a schedule. This is the one I want. So scheduled availability. You'll now see that my time zone is correct. And I can just go ahead and choose a template. I'm going to go for 8 to 5 daily except for weekends. I think that'll do for the requirements that, that Imran set me. So let's click Save there. Okay, that is it. We are done. So what I'm going to do right now is get the AP connected, and while we're waiting for that to boot up, I'm going to go to the checklist slide again and make sure that we've got everything set the way we want it to be. All right, so here is our checklist. We want to be able to authenticate guest users with Facebook, so we saw that, and in a moment you'll see what the user experience is like. We want to limit the total guest network bandwidth to 5 megabits per second. We wanted to limit mobile devices to 1 megabit per second, so that was the group policy that we set up. We want to ensure that no one device can exceed 500 kilobits per second for video and music applications. And finally, we want to turn off the guest network on weekends. I think, once again, we have achieved that job. So our AP is now coming up online, so what I'm going to do is just go and check that it has actually come up. So we've been waiting for it to boot up while I've been talking through the checklist. So let's have a look at our list of APs now. All right, so we're still waiting for it to come online right now. It's just showing as red at this point in time. So this is going to automatically clear once we have that AP online. Obviously, that's a very important step because we need to then be able to make sure that we are ready to get the device connected. So let me just do a reload on there. All right, so good news, our AP is now online. I had complete faith, of course. Imran's shaking next to me, but I have every confidence, of course, because I've never been let down by this kit. So there we are, AP is now online. We have our two SSIDs, so you can see there, those are enabled and available right now. So you can see the staff network is on, the guest network is on according to the schedule that we have created. And down here you can see live traffic coming from that access point, so already doing some communication there no doubt, to the Meraki cloud for management purposes. Okay, so it's time to test the user experience now. So let's just go back to the slides, and we want to now go ahead and check out that user experience. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch across to a view of my own Android phone. This is my cat Pippa, by the way, and I'll say hello everybody to Pippa. And so what I'm going to do is actually show you what is actually the user experience if you're connecting on an Android phone. Of course, it's going to be very similar if you were using an Apple device. I'm sure that these settings will look familiar to you. So first thing I'm going to do is just go to my settings menu, and in here you can see I've got a wireless network already, and I'm currently connected to one of our office networks called Meraki Guest. What I'm going to do is just move across now and choose one of the other networks that the AP has available to me. So let me just scroll down my list of access points and SSIDs that I can see, and there's my two SSIDs, staff and guest. So I'm going to start off with connecting to the staff network. And so this is, if you remember, this is the one where we set up the .1x authentication. So I actually need to log in as a real user here. So I'm going to actually use the user account that we have configured on the server, which I created earlier on. So let me go ahead and get that in there. .com and password as well. So let's connect to that. And assuming I typed everything correctly, then we, in a few moments, we should be connected to that corporate network. Okay, authentication problem. I think I may have mistyped the password there. Proves I'm human. So let's go back to staff again. I'm going to just rejoin that network. At akarm.com and my password. Okay, and connect. Right, that's better. So now you can see we have our connection to the staff network. I'll move my little mouse pointer. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. But I'm just moving that up to the wireless section. Now, those of you who use Android devices, you'll know that if this goes blue, if this is pure Nexus, by the way, for those Android users out there, this is telling me that I have a full working connection with DNS working. So I'm ready to go on the internet now. What I'm going to do first of all is go across to a speed test application that I have installed on my phone, so that we can actually check out the speed restriction that we created. So if you'll remember, we set a bandwidth restriction on this network so that no one device could cover more than 2 megabits per second. So let me begin a test there, and we'll see what throughput we're actually getting on this right now. So it usually takes a moment or two to settle down to the speed, but that looks like it's working just right. Look at that, it's settling right down to about 2 megs. Absolutely perfect. Good, I'm very happy with that. That's really working nicely. So that's that element tested out. And the last part I want to test on this network is the Facebook block that I created. So let me go across to my browser on my phone, and I'm just going to go to facebook.com and attempt to load up there. Now, because I've put a block on there which is essentially a firewall block, the behavior that we'll see is that the browser will just simply time out. So it'll attempt to get to the facebook.com domain, but it's blocked. So you, unlike with a security block with a content filter where you would typically get a message saying this site has been blocked, for example, if you block something with a firewall, the typical behavior looks exactly as we're seeing here right now. So it's obviously going to simply do a browser timeout. There we go. Okay, so that has tested, I think, everything satisfactorily on the Corp network. Now let's connect to the guest network that we created. So We have our staff network currently selected. So I'm just going to zoom down my list and find guest. And there it is. There's guest. Okay, so in the case of guest one, you'll notice it connects straight away. But currently we don't have a full working connection right now. That's because we need to authenticate to this network using a splash page, and that's going to appear here. So this is the behavior that you see typically with Android. I'll get notified that I need to actually sign in to this Wi-Fi network. So let me go ahead and select that straight away. Now, first thing you're going to notice is that I have connected to a Facebook.com site, which I would not have been able to do on the corporate network because we had a firewall block on there. So I now have been redirected to Facebook in order to get connected to this network. And you'll notice there also on the screen it says that I could use a Wi-Fi code instead. That would be the Wi-Fi code that I have created during the setup phase. So let's go ahead and do a check-in. All right, so our check-in has been successful, and as it says, I can now go ahead and continue to browse on this network. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me just roll that again. Let's just see if we're actually able to get to the network now. I don't think we will be able to right now because it doesn't look like it's completed the authentication just yet. Okay, let me try that process again. Shouldn't take too long. Bear with me a second. This is a part of the joy of doing live demonstrations. So let's go ahead and get connected again to the guest network. You'll notice that now that I've connected again to the guest network, it is actually showing me that I have a working connection. So I think I'm probably going to be good now if I go to Google. All right, so just a little bit of a fiddle there, but we got there. So we did actually authenticate correctly. I think it just didn't have time to complete the full authentication process there. All right, so now that I've connected to the guest network, let's just verify that's the network I'm on. There we go. We can see that there. So we are on the guest network now. I'm going to go to the speed test, and we'll roll that test once again. This time, obviously, we should be getting a slower speed of 1 megabit per second because you'll remember that I set a restriction there for mobile devices. And look at that again, it's working nicely. So we're getting good solid 1 megabit per second through to my Android device, testing out to the internet. All is well. All right, so I'm very happy with that. I think we can call that a wrap. So let me just move back to the slide presentation again. Mission has been accomplished. At this point in time, I'm going to hand back to Imran. Thank you very much, folks.
Well, thank you very much for that, Simon, and great job. So I think we titled this webinar 1 hour Wi-Fi, and Simon's actually smashed that record and done it in just over half an hour. So very well done to you. So I just wanted to actually just wrap up just by letting you know about our excellent evaluation program here at Cisco Meraki. You can try any one of our products. So we focused on wireless here, but we do, of course, have switching within the range and also security appliances. So you can try any one of these absolutely free of charge on your network. They set up very easily in about 15 minutes. And you also have access to complimentary technical assistance should you need it. So you can sign up for free trials at meraki.com/eval, and I'd really recommend it. The proof is really in the pudding, so give it a try for yourself. So I did now just want to finish off by really just taking a look at and stepping back and seeing what we've done here and discussing, so what? So what are the business implications for what we've just achieved? It's a great bit of technology. We've set up 2 wireless networks in really no time at all. What does this really mean? Well, what the cloud managed architecture really allows us to do is increase IT efficiency. You'll have hopefully seen during the demonstration that really, manageability is really no problem at all. It's very, very simple. We also have scalability, so I talked about that a little bit earlier on. Hopefully you'll be able to now appreciate how scalable this architecture is. So Simon's just set up two wireless networks just using a Cisco Meraki Cloud Managed Access Point. We can actually copy and paste literally these settings across to however many access points we'd like simply by registering some more serial numbers onto our organization's dashboard. It really is simple as that. So whenever those new serial number APs get plugged in, they will automatically tunnel a secure connection to our cloud, download their configuration settings, and that's it, you're good to go. The SSIDs will start to be broadcast, and you can actually, in this way, have a multi-site, really very large deployment with zero touch to the access points at all. So combination of scalability and manageability really leads to significant cost savings. So one of the other things I think Simon did mention is about firmware upgrades and the dashboard being always up to date with the latest features. So in a traditional approach, perhaps if you do need to upgrade firmware, there is some configuration required on the devices. Because we're all cloud managed, anytime that there is a firmware upgrade, this will happen seamlessly over the web without any input or configuration required from your network manager, IT manager, or any of your staff. You can also decide when these firmware upgrades will happen, so they're user scheduled. So I think most people have these to occur very early in the morning, so the network usage is quite negligible. So an example of scalability, I mean, we have customers that have literally deployed just one access point to serve their clientele, up to the largest cloud networking deployment in the world, which has actually deployed more than 10,000 Cisco Meraki access points, and incredibly it's being managed by one chap, I believe in Miami. So the organization I'm speaking about is in the hospitality industry. Some of you may be familiar with them. They're in North America, called Motel 6, very large chain. So they've deployed 10,000 access points across 620 locations, and they've got around 35,000 users using the network every week, and yeah, it's working perfectly fine. So really, we have numerous customers really able to reduce their operational costs. If you are interested in reading up a little bit more about any of the customers that have deployed Cisco Meraki, we have a big bank of case studies. If you go to meraki.com/customers, split by industry, region, etc., that you can feel free to read. Or perhaps you'd actually like to speak to a Cisco Meraki customer and find out about their experiences one-to-one, in which case feel free to give us a call. We'll be happy to put you into touch with them, and you can discuss what their experiences were like with the cloud management architecture. So I just wanted to finish on this really nice overview slide showing you that you can actually manage wireless LAN devices, Ethernet switches, security appliances, and also your mobile devices just from one absolute single pane of glass, the Cisco Meraki dashboard. No longer do you need a separate management console for your wireless LAN, and then a different one for your Ethernet switches, and then a separate one for your firewalls or security appliances, and another one for your mobile devices. This can all be consolidated into one view. So that is all we had to cover today. We have a few minutes left over now for Q&A, so I know the team have been very busy answering any questions you've had. I'm also going to unmute Simon again now, and I know Simon's got some answers to questions ready to share with you guys.
Okay, so I'm going to just run through a couple of questions that I can see have come in during the presentation. I hope you found that very useful. So let's get into some specifics. We've been asked about the VPN concentration capabilities that are available via the dashboard. So you may have seen that when I went in to create a new network, one of the options there was to set up a VPN concentrator. So we do actually have a software-based concentrator that's effectively a virtual machine you can simply deploy with any VMware virtual machine solution. And it is possible to then connect something like home workers, for example. Client VPN connections can come into that. So that's ideal for a relatively small business. Once you start getting serious and the size of your business starts to grow, then we do have proper hardware-based security appliances in the portfolio, which you will also have seen during setup, which are absolutely ideal for client VPN, also support site-to-site VPN, and a whole raft of other features that I simply don't have time to tell you about today. If you're interested in one of those, go in and have a look on the website. Question has come in about blocking users and websites and how we manage that. So hopefully you saw during the setup there that we were able to configure a block on Facebook. That was a firewall-based block. And as you saw with the behavior on that, the actual experience for the user is simply a browser timeout. So they'll just give up and go somewhere else. But the alternatives to that would be doing a content filter-based block where you would then get a pop-up message saying this site has been blocked by your security administrator, something like that. And you can actually go and customize that message as well. Alternatively, you can use the traffic shaping method, which would be my preferred method, I have to say, where you don't simply just block a site altogether, but you simply manage the user experience. So Facebook, for example, it's perfectly legitimate perhaps for users to make use of this during some downtime, lunchtime perhaps, but you may want to make sure that it's not impacting your business critical applications like voice and video, so you may want to just streamline that bandwidth that's available for that application to make sure that behavior maintains at the best. Question about guest access and how we managed to do that. So we did effectively guest access with the Facebook Wi-Fi, so that's definitely one of the options. But you'll have seen that there was a number of different options on the screen there. We can go in and simply allow guest users in with a password. You can set up what we call a guest ambassador, which would be like a receptionist, for example, who could configure and hand out usernames and passwords for temporary Wi-Fi access on a guest network. Alternatively, you can do billing as well. So again, put yourself in the shoes of a coffee shop wanting to monetize your Wi-Fi to some degree. What you can do with Meraki is you can simply set up some billing options. For example, how long do I want to allow this user to connect to my network, and what kind of bandwidth am I going to allow, and how much am I going to charge them? And Meraki will actually take care of all of the payment collection, so you don't need to worry about all of the payment card management side of things. We'll take care of the payment collection. You then provide us with a PayPal address, and at the end of every month we'll simply send you the money that the account has accrued. So a really nice, simple solution. And like everything else with Meraki, set up very, very quickly, as I've been demonstrating to you today. Okay, I'll hand back to Imran now.
We've got a great question here asking us what happens in the unlikely event that connection to the cloud is interrupted. It's a great question, and really all of the Meraki hardware is designed for cloud management. So I was talking earlier on about how each device is simultaneously connected to 2 data centers. If in the unlikely event all of the redundancies do fail, then any setting that you make using the dashboard, all of those settings actually get saved on the hardware device itself. So we have extra memory and CPU built into all of our devices to really deal with this. So if you do lose connection to cloud, your local area network would still function exactly how you had it set up to do so. So any SSIDs you had configured and policies, layer 7 shaping rules, etc. would still be valid and current. So yeah, great question. So we are just about out of time now today, folks. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us. If you have any additional questions that you do think of after the webinar, or if you've not had a chance to actually answer your question live on air today, don't worry, these things are getting logged, so you will get a call from a Meraki representative after the webinar to answer your question, or perhaps even give you a personalized demo of the dashboard. Other than that, thank you very much. Have a great day, and we hope to speak to you sometime soon. Thanks now. Bye-bye.